Before we start, if you would like to earn CE credits for attendance at the board meeting, please see Natalie Boyer. At this time, in order to receive CE credits, you are required to stay for the entire duration of the board meeting. So this is a public meeting of the Board of Chiropractic Examiners. The date is February 15th, 2019, and the time is 9:07 a.m. Location is Department of Consumer Affairs, Headquarters 2, 1747 North Market Boulevard, Room 186, Sacramento, California, 95834. The board's paramount responsibility is to protect the health, welfare, and safety of the public through licensure, education, and enforcement in chiropractic care. Please be aware that this meeting is being audio and video recorded for live webcast. Please turn off or silence all cell phones, and Mr. Rufino will now take roll.
Good morning. Dr. Azzolino,
Present.
Dr. Deanne McLean, she's excused. Frank Rufino, present. Dr. Heather Den,
Present.
Dr. Corey Lickman,
Present.
and Dr. David Paris.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you like to open up with the Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Rufino, please?
It will be my pleasure. Thank I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So at this time, I will be turning the meeting over to Judge Dina Coggins as we can proceed with petitioner reinstatements for revoked licenses.
Thank you. Good morning. We are here on February 15th, 2019 in the matter of the petitions for reinstatement of revoked licenses. We have 4 petitions before the board today. This matter is being heard before the Board of Chiropractic Examiners, Department of Consumer Affairs. This morning, we'll start with the petition of Thomas George Pollock. If you'll step forward, and if you're represented, your counsel step forward with you. Will all the members of the board please identify themselves for the record?
David Paris.
Sergio Azzolino.
Frank Rufino.
Heather Dane.
Corey Lickman.
A quorum of the board is present. My name is Dina Coggins. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to hear this matter today. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning. Andrew Steinheimer, Deputy Attorney General.
Thank you. The petitioner, Thomas George Pollock, is present, and you're representing yourself today, Dr. Pollock? Yes. All right. In this proceeding, the board is concerned with hearing about any rehabilitation since you last petitioned for reinstatement. The Deputy Attorney General will proceed first by submitting the petition into evidence and provide an orientation to the board about this matter. After that, you'll have an opportunity to present your case. Reminding you that the board has had an opportunity of reviewing the petition package that you submitted, so you don't have to repeat anything that's contained in that package. You will be subject to questioning today by the board members and the Deputy Attorney General sitting next to you. After the hearing, the board will go into closed session to deliberate. You will not receive a decision today, but will receive it sometime in the future by mail. Do you have any questions at this time? No. All right. If you'll stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you. Have a seat. Mr. Steinheimer, if you want to provide a historical background.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. First, good morning, Your Honor, and good morning, board members. Again, Andrew Steinheimer, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. I'm here to assist the board in fact-finding. My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. First, a petition for reinstatement packet has been provided to Judge Coggins as well as to the board members. And I'd like that petition packet to be marked as Exhibit 1 and admitted into evidence at this time.
It has been so marked. Is there any objection to the petition package coming into evidence?
No.
All right. Hearing no objection, Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Okay. The petition packet contains the following documents generally. First, a petition for reinstatement of revoked license dated July 12, 2017, and supporting documentation from the petitioner. The supporting documentation includes a July 1st, 2017 statement from petitioner, 2 letters of recommendation, and a June 20th, 2016 letter from Dr. Agnew and a CV for Dr. Agnew. The exhibit also includes the June 8th, 2015 decision and order in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of revoked license, case number 2009-685, denying petitioner's prior attempt to have his license reinstated. It also contains the default decision and order in case number 2009-685, revoking petitioner's license as of July 20th, 2012. It includes the first amended accusation in case number 2009-685 and the original accusation in that same case. I'll provide a brief history of petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's license number is DC 18920. The license was first issued to petitioner on January 1st, 1988. On April 8th, 2010, an accusation was filed against petitioner seeking discipline against his license on the grounds that he had been convicted of crimes substantially related to the qualifications, functions, and duties of a licensed chiropractor, a conviction of a crime involving physical violence, conduct endangering the health, welfare, and safety of the public, dangerous use of alcohol, convictions involving the consumption of alcohol, making false statements in connection with the license application, and commission of a dishonest act. The basis for the accusation were a number of convictions dated from June 15th, 2009, going back to January 4th, 2006, including public intoxication, driving under the influence of alcohol, and assault with a deadly weapon. On July 29th, 2011, an amended accusation was filed against petitioner. This added another cause for discipline based on a conviction of August 11th, 2010 for public intoxication. Petitioner failed to provide a notice of defense to the accusation, and a default decision and order was entered against him on June 20th, 2012, with the effective date of July 20th, 2012. The default decision found that the charges and the allegation were true, and respondent's or petitioner's license was revoked effective July 20th, 2012. On August 15th, 2014, petitioner submitted to the board a petition for reinstatement of his revoked license. On April 16th, 2015, a hearing was held on the petition. The board issued its decision and order denying the petition for reinstatement on June 8th, 2015. Petitioner has now filed a second petition for reinstatement and is requesting that the board reinstate his chiropractic license. It is petitioner's burden to demonstrate that he is rehabilitated and safe to practice and that his license should be reinstated.
Thank you. Dr. Polak, this is your opportunity to present your case. You may testify on your own behalf. You are again reminded that the information contained in the petition package is available to the board members. Do you have any additional documents you'd like to present?
No.
Okay. And do you have any witnesses that you intend to call today?
No.
All right. This is your opportunity to testify.
Um,
Can we have you guys speak into the microphone a little bit? Pull the microphone a little closer. Thank you.
These are nice. How's that? If we've already gone over everything here, I'm not sure what I should say. You know, the conviction for the assault with a weapon, that was an individual who was homeless, who I let stay at my house when it rained, and I never assaulted him. And I told the police there that I didn't. He told them they didn't, but they arrested me. And when I was in jail, I even have, there's a letter from the individual that he gave to the attorney, I guess it was notarized, to the attorney that's saying, I never assaulted him. I had nothing to do with it. In fact, I saved his life twice, once in the park and once across the street where I live.
And Dr. Polak, not to interrupt you, but I just
Okay.
want to remind you that the board is concerned with your rehabilitation since
Oh,
that
okay.
time of being, your license being disciplined. We're not
Oh, okay.
relitigating the underlying circumstances
Oh,
of
okay.
the convictions, so the board is really interested in your rehabilitation since discipline.
I was drinking almost every day, and it was the pain. I had just the constant pain. And I had an accident in '06, a bicycle accident, and I didn't realize, but after a couple of months, I was driving around with a broken neck. And so a year later, I went to the ER room, and I had a hemorrhage in my brain that had been there the year before, but they missed it. Point being, that surgery, that was one reason I was drinking. Another reason I was drinking is I had a grade 4 cardiac equina. About 80% of my spinal cord was entrapped. Oh, a grade 4 cardiac equina? I'm sorry. CAUDI. And when I quit working out, all the symptoms came. So I had back pain that was terrible. And I had knee pains from just a life of powerlifting. I started when I was about 9 years old, so it was catching up to me. When I was drinking for the self-medicating for the pain, and it worked very well. I got my first surgeries. So I had the one in '06 where they removed a hemorrhage in my brain, no, '07. And then I had 2 surgeries in my low back on 12. And then I had 2 knees replaced in '13, and then I had a new shoulder replaced in '15. Well, I don't have any pain anymore at all. And I've been working out 6 days a week. I've been working with Dr. David Agnew, who's a neurologist and a theoretical neurologist in Santa Barbara, since February 23rd, 2014. And I see him once every other month or once a month, and we've been working very close together. So what we've been able to do, and with the assistance of, judiciously using pain medication, is to get myself to the point now where I'm working out 6 days a week in the gym. I'm doing things I never thought I'd be doing. I haven't drank since the last time I was here, whenever that was. I don't remember, 2012 or something like that, because there was no pain anymore. I wanted to go to chiropractic meetings, but I can't adjust anybody there. And that puzzled me because there are physical therapists there that aren't even licensed as chiropractors, and they're adjusting people. And that's going on all the time. But I'm a doctor that had practiced for 20-some years. So the reason I quit going to the chiropractic meetings is that I know these guys. I've known them for a long time, and if they want me to adjust them or something like that, because they like the way I adjust, I say, I can't. Well, I'm not going to tell them that I have my license revoked. I'm ashamed of it. And, but I lecture once a month. I lecture to a group of doctors and medical doctors, pharmacists, college professors, and I lecture at my church on health and diseases and things like that. So I keep up on all of my studies, and I keep up on I'm very current on my neurology and my chiropractic. And I haven't drank in a long time. I know when it looks like my record, I went and checked my record down at the courthouse, and it's not funny, but it was kind of funny. And I looked at this one page, and I said, gee whiz, I called the girl over, I says, I thought I was arrested a lot more than this, but this is a lot, but I guess I wasn't. She said, that's page 1. And there was like 3 pages, so it's got to look bad. And when I was living in the park, I was homeless. They took my chiropractic license, they took my driver's license, they took my passport. I'm married. I have a wife in the Philippines, and now she's in London. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work, and I was in constant pain. And then it finally got to the point where I was homeless. And it was unbelievable. There was no way to get out of it. So I was in constant pain. I was going to be homeless. I was never going to see my wife again. I was never going to practice chiropractic again. And every year, my arrears on my child support just kept, spiraling. It's like $60,000, $70,000. So it was a hopeless situation. Now, I never drank when I was practicing. I want to make that clear. I had gotten to the point where I wasn't practicing anymore, and there was just no hope. But I did drink. I drank almost every day, and towards the end there, before I had my surgeries, I had to drink a half pint of vodka on an empty stomach before I could take a shower because I collapsed. The pain was just so bad I couldn't take a chance of it. So it became a way of life for me. And like I say, it worked very, very well. I lived in Isla Vista, and one of the problems with Isla Vista, if you use pain medication and they found out about it, that's how people get killed there, if you're homeless and you've got pain medication. So I stuck to the alcohol. It was cheap and it worked very well. Since I've had my surgeries, they were so successful. The knee surgeries and back surgeries were so successful. And then I've been working with Dr. Agnew. We've been slowly increasing my workouts to where now it's just amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I'm excited. I really am. And I say this humbly, I'm a good doctor. I really am. I'm a good doctor. I'm a dedicated doctor. My children are like my patients. I never drank or had alcohol or anything when I was practicing. It was when I wasn't practicing. And I quit practicing in 2006. And I know it looks bad, and I know that I didn't even think about chiropractic and how I was hurting our profession's name. With child support on your back and all the stuff you're going through, and then you're in constant pain, that's the last thing you think about, is your profession. I mean, I'm trying to get through the day and just function. And so even thinking about the ramifications, I never thought I would practice again. I never thought I would ever have any chance at it again. And by a fluke, my ex-wife had embezzled money out of Social Security and didn't tell child support about it, and like $70-some thousand. Well, child support found out about it, and all of a sudden we went to court, and they said, I don't owe any back child support, I don't owe any future child support, and now they owed me $3,000. It was a miracle. And so then I got my surgeries, I got my back surgeries, I got my knee surgeries, and it's been nothing but a great experience ever since. Once the child support was off my back, once I had a chance to start doing this again, and I didn't realize the surgeries were going to be so effective. They're just fabulous. I know the surgeons personally. I went to medical school with one of the brothers, his brother, and they're friends of mine. Doctors that I worked with and had their patients and they had mine. So it was a good experience where we could sit there and discuss it. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And what about doing this? Like they wanted to fuse my back and I said, we don't need to. And it was nice where we could just team up and work together. It's been a wonderful experience. And I can't even tell anybody what it's like to be homeless, in constant pain. You're never going to, I always wanted to be a doctor. When I was a little kid, I bandaged all my teddy bears. And even my dad and my uncle say, what does your son want to be? Can't you tell? Everything's bandaged up. Oh, I'm sorry. Point being is that all my life I wanted to be a doctor. I was going to go to medical school. I was interviewed in Loma Linda.
Mr. Paul, slower.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The court reporter has to take down everything that you're saying, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I had been down to Loma Linda to interview, and the only problem I had with medicine was that the dependence on drugs, and it's something that bothered me. But I got into a bad car accident. I was rear-ended. Am I going too fast? Okay. I got into a bad car accident, and very serious. I was rear-ended, and I went to the doctors and the physical therapist for about 2 months, and I was getting worse. I was hit at 60, 70 miles an hour. It was bad. And one of my friends said, why don't you try a chiropractor? And I said, no, I've heard all kinds of weird things about that. And I knew him, and he was going to go to medical school. We were going to go together, and he says, no, you need to check this out. So I went to a chiropractor. I had a neck brace on, and
Dr. Polak, I want to remind you that the board is interested in your rehabilitation.
I'm sorry.
Since the discipline.
Okay, so, well, my rehabilitation is that, well, I quit drinking once the pain was gone, so I didn't drink for any other reason than the pain. So I think that was 2012 or right after my back surgeries. And my rehabilitation as far as physically, I work out 6 days a week. I lecture, I study, I do counseling at church on diets and things like that. I'm part of the health ministries at my church. Is that what you want?
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and I don't drink anymore because there was no need for it. Alcohol doesn't agree with me. It blocks the pain, but I get very sick from it. But so that's what I do, yeah. And
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to run on, you know.
You're fine. This is now the time for questions from the board members.
I have one question, Your Honor. Mr. Pollock, you may have misspoken, but you mentioned you know the surgeon personally because you went to medical school with him?
With his brother.
You went to medical school with his brother, or
Mhm.
chiropractic school or medical school?
Well, that's what they called it, chiropractic medical school. That's what it says on my diploma.
Okay. And this is more of a statement rather than a question, but I'm not sure if you're aware of Section 310.2. We pointed this out to you several years ago, that 310.2 of the chiropractic rules and regulations, that any person who advertises or promotes in any manner the word doctor or chiropractor, the letters, prefixes, or suffixes, doctor or DC, or any other word, title, or letter indicating or implying that he or she is engaging in practice of chiropractic, or who represents or holds himself or herself out to be a doctor of chiropractic without having at the time of doing so a valid, unrevoked, or unsurrendered license is a violation of the Chiropractic Initiative Act. Your letter to the board, you reference yourself as doctor and DC, so I just want to point that out. Because I believe we had the same conversation last time, several years ago. Just want to make sure you're aware of those rules and regulations.
Yeah, I don't have any titles at all on anything, so I don't know why that was on there, unless I,
So looking at the letter that you provided to the board, Bates Stamp 5, did you write that letter?
yeah, it looks like it.
Okay, so that's all I'm referencing. So,
Oh, Dr. Pog, DC? Oh, I don't know why I put that in there, if I had somebody type it, or... So, I'm not sure why I did that. I didn't know if, when I graduated from school, they said, okay, you're a doctor now. I still had I still graduated from school, so I think maybe that's what my thinking was.
I just want to make sure you're...
I'm especially writing you guys, why would I try to... But I don't use the title at all. And I make it clear at church when I lecture that don't call me doctor, I just by my name. So I made that clear to everybody,
Okay, thank
that
you.
I don't want to be in a church. They used to introduce me as doctor, and I told them I don't want that anymore.
I have no further questions.
No questions.
I have a question, Mr. Pollock. In your letter, it says that you have begun titrating off pain medications and expect it will continue each month without any problems. And then later in the letter, it says, I am titrating off all of my medications and will be off them at the time of my hearing with you. Are you still taking pain medication?
Yeah, but I'm almost off, but I didn't think it was going to come up so quick. I thought it was going to be in May.
Okay,
'Cause
so,
that's what they told me, so, but look to be May, so I'm probably going to, I see him, I think in a month or something like that. But no, we're at the very end.
So this letter is dated July of 2017. So for the rest of 2017, all of 2018, and now it's 2019, and you're still titrating?
Yeah, because that was our goal. But in addition, what we did is we set up 5 null hypotheses. And the idea was if we could reject each one of them. And the final null hypothesis was that you can't do this, you have a null hypothesis, and you can't do this, and you can't do this, and then prove your null hypothesis wrong. So, yeah, we had plans on that, but one of the things that Dr. Agnew wanted to caution me about was that what my goals were. He said, once you get practicing, you're going to probably be busy. I was very busy when I practiced, and you need to make sure that back's in good shape. So what I did is started upping my lifting and started going 6 days a week and pushing it.
Okay.
And what happened was I didn't realize how out of shape compared to what I thought I needed to be. So what we did is we slowed it down and then dragged it out.
And I have one more question.
It worked. It's an absolute beautiful how we've done this, and it works very well. I'm sorry.
You testified that you had a broken neck and that you also had cauda equina. In your surgeries, you talk about back surgeries, knee replacement, left shoulder replacement that were all helpful in relieving your pain. No surgeries involving your broken neck or your cauda equina?
No, yes, the cauda equina, absolutely. That was my first back surgery was addressing the cauda equina. Well, the first one was an L5S1 discectomy, and the second one was addressing the cauda equina, where the ligamentum flavum, which had hypertrophy, was taken out. The facet that hypertrophy was taken out, and then the disc that was bulging was taken out.
Okay.
So
I heard you
Yeah, it
talking
was
about your back
beautiful.
surgeries, but didn't mention, I'm so
What-
sorry.
One moment, Mr.
it was
Pollock.
a beautiful.
Mr. Pollock,
Okay.
in order for the court reporter to get down what you're saying,
I'm so
I can't
sorry.
have both people talking at the same time. So if you'll let Board Member Dane complete her questioning, and then
Okay.
take a moment, pause to see if she's finished, and then answer the question. Thank you.
Okay.
You answered my question. I heard you talk about your back surgeries, but didn't mention your neck, so my question is answered. Thank you.
The neck had healed so well.
And there's no question pending
Oh,
right
I'm
now.
Okay.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Steinheimer, this is your time for questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Pollock, have you been convicted of any crimes since the convictions that are listed in the accusations against you?
No.
And you testified that you haven't drank any alcohol since 2012. Aside from just not having the desire to drink because your pain has gone away, have you participated in any either AA meetings or other meetings to help you deal with your alcohol issues?
I didn't have an alcohol issue.
Okay, so the answer, you haven't participated in AA?
Well, no, I lived in a sober living home. One of my patients ran one, and when I didn't have money for an apartment, I lived there. So they had meetings every week, and I was the doctor for the house. Actually, it was kind of neat, but they had AA meetings, and I participated in those for 3 years.
Okay, when you say you're the doctor for the house, what do you mean by that?
Well, the owner was a patient of mine, and so if anybody had any questions and wanted me to, had their medical files and things like that, and they wanted them to go over them, I'd explain what it means, and the Fifth Avenue, 6-syllable words
Okay, but you
would
weren't,
help them out.
you weren't performing medical services for them?
Oh, no, this is a buddy.
Okay, since your license has been revoked, have you done any chiropractic work?
No. Now, the last time I was here, I didn't know that I couldn't adjust people. And I had adjusted my sister and I think one other person. But once they told me that, I haven't done any at all.
Okay, so since your last hearing in 2015, you haven't done any adjustments
No.
on friends or family?
No, nobody at all. And I told them that I can't because I'm not licensed. So I didn't have people pushing me, oh, come on, can't you just do it once? And I said, no, it's illegal.
Okay.
And then that solved it.
Are you currently doing anything for employment?
I have Social Security, and with my studies and everything, if I get employed, there's no point, because I'm a chiropractor. I don't know what I would do.
If your license was reinstated, what type of work would you intend to do as a chiropractor?
There's a lot of different options. I live in a nice place, and I've been very blessed. It's called Maravilla, and I have a housing voucher that got me in there. I've toyed with the idea. I didn't want to bring it up to them because I lecture there, and I don't call myself doctor, but I lecture to doctors and pharmacists and some other people. And so I've toyed with the idea of approaching them. They don't have a doctor on the premises there, and people are disabled. I know a lot of them, and I thought it might be a good way to start a clinic there.
Okay.
That's one. Two is, my wife's from the Philippines, and the last time I was in the Philippines, there was a chiropractor in Cebu that had a practice, and I adjusted him and worked on him, and he said, "You're fantastic. How would you like to join me? And we can make a partnership out of that." That's another possibility. And three, there's some other doctors I know that I would like to start my own business, but so when I go to the doctor's office, I'm not working for you. This is my business, and I'll give you 50% or whatever they charge to cover their costs and where they can make money too.
Okay, thank you.
Is that adequate?
Sure. And then my last question for you is, I'm just curious about the lectures that you've been doing. Can you explain just briefly what types of subjects you're lecturing on?
Well, at Maravilla, because of the average age there is, I'm 71 and I'm young in there. They're 80 and 90 and 100. I lecture not on interesting subjects, but I lecture on subjects that will help them immediately. The last lecture I gave was on balance. How to increase your balance. And I explained to them the dorsal columns and how that works, and the inner ear and how that works. And how just by doing, they have gyms on there too, just by doing simple tandem walking in the gym, you can increase your balance. In elderly, the number one injury is falling.
Okay.
And so that's a biggie. So I do that, and then I do another one on bone loss. And I do another one on what types of food set you up for cancer. Another one's on sleep problems and use of, So it's subjects that are interesting and subjects that they immediately can use and to help them, and they love it.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
very effective, yeah.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Mr. Pollock, do you have any closing remarks?
I love being a chiropractor. And, when I was homeless, and I can't tell you what a relief to have that thing turned around where all of a sudden child support was off my back. And then to get my surgeries, and all of a sudden within a short time, I don't owe any child support. I got my license back. I've got my driver's license back. I've got my passport back. And all of a sudden I'm in no pain. I can't even tell you what it's like. All my life I've worked hard, college and high school honors and everything, to be a doctor. And then all of a sudden to have that taken from you. And then you're homeless. I can't even tell anybody what it's like. And then to have, all of a sudden you've got hope. And like I said, it was such a mess. The last thing I was thinking about is giving my profession a bad name. And I'm sorry about that. I love chiropractic, and I'm very protective of it. And I'm just very sorry about that. But I love being a chiropractor. I really do. The medical doctor I work with, Dr. Agnew, he's a neurologist, and I've spent a lot of time with him. And he's really getting it. Because I explained to him what innate is through DNA. All kinds of things. We have some great conversations. And rather than listening to his medical buddies telling him what chiropractic is, he's got a chiropractor telling him. And he respects me. He gave me a letter of recommendation in there too, David Agnew. And it's, right now, my whole life is just exciting. And it's opening up. And I can't tell you what it's like to be pain-free. and doing things. And to work all those years to have that license, and then I just got to be a doctor again. I really do. I love it, and I'm a good doctor, and I'm a credit to my profession, and I'm an honest doctor. I don't cheat on bills or anything. I'm very careful with that. I just really need to be a doctor again. Oh, man. And I've got another doctor. We talked about setting up seminars. He's a radiologist, and I said, listen, I have a good background in neurology and MRIs. We could have set up seminars and do, really good chiropractic seminars. Paul Zamella, his name is. And it's just right now, with the pain gone, if you've never had chronic, constant pain, there's no way to describe it. With that gone, and I don't have this child support on my back, and I've got a place to live and a whole life starting right now, I just got to be a doctor again. I love it. I really do. I just absolutely love it. I don't know what else to say.
Thank you. Mr. Steinheimer, any closing remarks?
No, submitted, Your Honor.
That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed, the case is submitted, and we are off the record in this matter and will proceed to the next petition. Thank you.
Thanks.
And the next,
Agenew. Yes.
You mentioned another gentleman, Paul.
Zemella. Zemella. He's the chiropractor I see, and for myself, and I've gotten to know him, so we really talk about making plans and stuff.
I just need to
Okay. Thanks.
Hang on 1 second, he'll give it a form in case you need to copy the transcript. Okay.
and the next matter will be in the petition by Elid Dinkane. You can step forward, please.
This is in case you want to order a copy of the transcript at some point in time. Okay, but now you're free to go today, and you're done, and then you copy of the decision. Okay.
All right, good morning. We are on the record in the petition for reinstatement of revoked license of Elid Dinkane.
Ihalid Dinkani.
Thank you, Mr. Dinkani. This is matter 2019-010695. And this is agency number AC 199855. The petitioner is present. You're representing yourself today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. You may have heard just now that in this proceeding, the board is concerned with any rehabilitation you've had since your license was disciplined. As just happened in the last hearing, I will get evidence from the Deputy Attorney General with a brief overview and history of this matter, and then you'll have an opportunity to present your case.
Thank you very much.
Right? Mr. Steinheimer?
Yes. Good morning. Again, Andrew Steinheimer, Deputy Attorney General, on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California. First, I understand that the petition packet has been presented to the board members as well as to Judge Coggins, and I ask that that petition packet be marked as Exhibit 1 and move that it be admitted into evidence at this time.
It has been so marked. Mr. Dinkani, do you have any objection to Exhibit 1, which is the petition package coming into evidence?
No, Your Honor.
It has been admitted?
Thanks. Exhibit 1 generally consists of the petition for reinstatement of revoked license dated October 3rd, 2018, and petitioner's supporting documentation, which includes a July 1st, 2017 statement from petitioner, a certificate of completion of an anger management class, Evidence that petitioner's felony conviction from 1998 has been dismissed as of October 9th, 2002. CBEST test results, information regarding Western Hills Health Partnership, a January 23rd, 2019 letter from petitioner, as well as an October 5th, 2018 copy of the petition for reinstatement with some additional explanation. Exhibit 1 also includes the July 12th, 2000 stipulated settlement and decision in case number 98-55, revoking petitioner's license effective August 20th, 2000, as well as the accusation in case number 9855. A brief history of the petitioner's license is petitioner's license number is DC 12655. The license was first issued to petitioner on January 1st, 1979. On July 10th, 1998, the board filed accusation number 9855 against petitioner. The accusation alleged that petitioner was subject to discipline based on his unprofessional conduct, including his March 17th, 1998 conviction for conspiring to commit a crime of insurance fraud and making false claims to insurance companies, and the preparation of false and fraudulent medical bills with the intent to support false claims. In short, between 1992 and 1996, respondent was involved in a scheme in which accidents were made up or staged and false claims for medical treatment were submitted. Petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement of the accusation by which his license was revoked, and petitioner was ordered to pay $8,953.25 in costs to the board. To date, petitioner has not paid the cost reimbursement. Petitioner is now requesting that the board reinstate his chiropractic license. It's petitioner's burden to demonstrate that he is rehabilitated and safe to practice and that his license should be reinstated.
Thank you. If you'll stand and raise your right hand. Mr. Dincani, do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, have a seat, please. Do you have any additional documents that you would like to present?
I do, Your Honor. I didn't bring any letters of recommendation, and so I want to submit these two documents to establish some evidence of who I am.
Okay, one moment. What are the documents?
Letters by patients that was issued in 1992, and a petition that was done when I was incarcerated by the community.
And it's, I'm sorry, it's a petition for?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that provided
It
to?
was just stating who, it was just people in the community. No specific body.
Okay, if you can show Mr. Steinheimer, so you can take a look. You can present them. Thank you. Marking these documents, the first is a packet of letters as Exhibit 2 for identification purposes. The next is what Mr. Dincani referred to as a petition, marking that as Exhibit 3 for identification purposes. Any objection to either exhibit coming into evidence?
No objection.
Okay, they've been so admitted. Do you have any witnesses that you intend to call today?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then this is your opportunity to present your case. You can testify on your own behalf. I'm reminding you that the information that's contained in the petition package has been made available to the board members. You can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, being able to use the petition packet is a strong limitation. But thank you for this invitation this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you on this matter. I carefully filled out my petition with facts that I witnessed over the last 18, 19 years. So I did not understand how this proceeding would go this morning. But all I've done over the last 18 years is rehabilitate myself by volunteering at every opportunity, participating in work that was aligned with healthcare, which is in the petition. And I did not indicate in my petition that I'm a Scientologist, and I have to answer to them for any wrong that I do. And it's a little more strict than being in this process this morning. I'm placed on a what is considered an E-meter, and I have to address my participation in any violations of the moral code. And I've taken courses in my church. I've taken courses on ethics, the moral code of our society. The course specifically is called The Potential Trouble Source, which very much aligns with what happened in this particular case. And in addition to that, the courses and the services that I rendered in the healthcare industry, that's what I've done to rehabilitate myself. And I study all the time in the Church of Scientology. That's what I did. Honesty is a fundamental it's fundamental to my existence. And with that, that's what I have to present this morning, in addition to the package that I've already submitted to you.
Thank you. Now's the time for questions from the board members.
Good morning, Mr. Dinkani.
Good morning, sir.
Did you hear my previous comments in the
Yes, I did.
previous statement? Okay, I just want to make sure you're aware of the use of doctor in DC is not permitted if you are
I
unlicensed.
apologize. I was just proud to be, so I wrote the letter unconsciously, really not being aware of the code.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
No further questions.
No questions at this time.
Thank you.
No questions.
I have no questions either.
Thank you. Mr. Steinheimer, you can question them.
I have a brief questioning, Your Honor. Mr. Dinkani, can you explain a little bit about, I know it's in the packet, but explain a little bit about the volunteer work that you have been doing, more than just saying that you've done volunteer work. What does it consist of, if you can explain that a little bit?
I wrote 501c3s for churches that wanted them. I tutored every opportunity I could get. I volunteered in church services and whatever the church community activities were. Like we had a community organization we call the Pleasant Grove Men's Club, the Pleasant Grove Men's Club. And what we did was help the elderly cut their yards, make repairs in their homes as needed. Things on that line.
Okay. Since the conviction that you, that now has been dismissed, but that was the basis for the accusation against you and the revocation of your license, have you been convicted of any other crimes?
I got a speeding ticket way back, and I attended traffic school.
Okay.
Got that handled.
If your license is reinstated, what type of work as a chiropractor would you intend to do?
I'm very interested in working with Dr. Melvin, which I indicated in the petition. I like what he's doing, and he's invited me to join his staff.
What was the name, and if you can spell it for the record?
Melvin Chiropractic, San Diego, California, and Dr. Greg Melvin. And I have an additional offer in Manhattan Beach, The doctor that was there is now deceased, and his wife is looking for a doctor to rebuild the practice. So I'm invited. She's excited to that she can possibly hire me.
Okay. With respect to the reasons that your license was revoked in the first place, what assurances can you give to the board that something like that, the fraudulent billing practices, won't happen in the future?
That was never my intent in the first place. It was conspiracy. That was not my nature. I just would not do that. That's my promise. In my little closing statement that I hope that I'm going to end with, I will uphold the highest professionalism if my license is reinstated. I'm not a dishonest person. My church doesn't allow me to be dishonest.
When did you start attending Scientology church?
In 1984, I was a Scientologist when this happened.
Okay. And have you addressed your conviction and everything within the church?
Yes, sir, I have.
With respect to there was a cost award when your license was revoked of almost $9,000. If your license is reinstated, are you prepared to repay those costs?
Absolutely, sir.
That's all the questions I have.
We have a question.
Mr. Dincani, do you have any interest in paying those costs if your license is not revoked, or not
I do,
reinstated?
sir. I just haven't, I'm working to generate money. I haven't had the money to. I do. Absolutely.
Are you making any efforts to set up a payment plan or anything with the board?
I haven't done that, no.
Okay.
But I will do that.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Dincani, this is your opportunity to provide any closing remarks you would like for the board.
Thank you. Practicing was the most passionate years of my life. It has always been my prayer to please God in all that I do. I'm here to petition the board with the strongest sincerity and with honesty of heart. I'm asking you for the privilege to practice, and I will guard that right if granted. And I will uphold the highest professionalism. And I understand it better today, for that it's always been my intention as a chiropractic doctor. I know that chiropractic is an effective modality, and I'm excited to be a chiropractor in this honorable profession. Thank you.
Mr. Steinheimer, any closing remarks?
No, submitted, Your Honor.
Thank you. This concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed, the case is submitted, and we are off the record in this matter. I want to let you know that if you'd like a copy of the hearing transcript, then you can go to the court reporter and he'll give you a form for that information. We're moving on to the next petition. That is the petition of Riza Ali Akbar. If you can come forward, please. right, we are here in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of revoked license of Riza Ali Akbar, OH, case number 2019-010-694, and agency number AC 2007592. May I take the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General to start?
Andrew Steinheimer, on behalf of the Attorney General, pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Okay, and appearance for petitioner?
Thomas Kensok, K-E-N-S-O-K, appearing for petitioner Reza Ali Akbar.
Thank you. And Mr. Kinsock, if you can provide a business card to the court reporter before you
I
leave
did.
today. Thank you. Perfect. All right. Mr. Steinheimer?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Steinheimer,
Yes.
one moment, please. I just want to go on the record here, Your Honor, that I was in chiropractic school at the same time that Reza was in school, and I feel I could be impartial in the hearing, but I'd like to place that question to him. If you'd like me to recuse myself, I'll be happy to.
No, it's fine, you can miss.
Thank you.
Thank you. You can proceed, Mr. Steinheimer.
Thank you. First, I understand the petition for reinstatement packet has been provided to the board members as well as to Your Honor, and I'd like to have that packet marked as Exhibit 1 and ask that it be admitted into evidence at this time.
Any objection?
No.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
The petition packet consists of the petition for reinstatement of revoked license dated January 18th, 2018, and supporting documentation, including certificates of completion from the International Chiropractic Association of California, as well as evidence that petitioner's October 3rd, 2007 conviction was reduced to a misdemeanor and then dismissed as of August 15th, 2014. Exhibit 1 also includes the April 1st, 2008 default decision and order in case number 2007-592, and a copy of the accusation in case number 2007-592. Brief history of petitioner's license. Petitioner's license number is DC 24268. The license was first issued to petitioner on September 6, 1996. On November 9, 2007, the board filed accusation number 2007-592 against petitioner. The accusation alleged that petitioner was subject to discipline based on his unprofessional conduct, including his October 3rd, 2007 conviction for conspiring to commit insurance fraud and also for preparing fraudulent billing records. In short, in 2004 and 2005, petitioner was involved in a scheme in which accidents were made up or staged and false claims for medical treatment were submitted. In total, petitioner submitted approximately 100 false claims to various insurance companies, knowing the claims were fraudulent. Petitioner failed to provide a notice of defense to the accusation, and a default decision and order was entered against him on April 1st, 2008, with an effective date of May 1st, 2008. The default decision found that the charges and allegations in the accusation were true, and respondent's license was revoked for a period of 10 years effective May 1st, 2008. Petitioner is now requesting that the board reinstate his chiropractic license. It is petitioner's burden to demonstrate that he is rehabilitated and safe to practice and that his license should be reinstated.
Thank you. Mr. Ali Akbar, if you'll stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Kinsick, do you have an opening?
I do, but before that, I do have sets of documents that I would like to supply to the board and to council.
Mr. Kinsick, if you'll pull in the microphone a bit.
Sure.
Thank you.
I have documents I would like to supply to the board. The first one is a brief going through the items. The second one is how are these set up? Each one is.
Each one is, one letter is for a packet.
The next one is a packet of letters of support. And then the next one is a two-page document from a psychologist. Like counsel, a copy of the brief. We had a number of other copies. Has everybody got one on the board at this point? I believe so.
All right,
Everybody is
one
reading.
moment, one moment, Mr. Kinseth. The board's ready if you'll look up and let me know.
Just make sure that the first page that was provided has the second page of signature. Sure. This page right here. Second page?
First page over here, Valerie.
That's the first page.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're off the record at this time, thank you.
Everyone has a full set? You need a set?
All right, let's go back on the record. I'm marking for identification purposes as Exhibit 2, the rehabilitative report that was drafted by M, initial Ann, Jury, Juri. Marking as Exhibit 3, a packet of character reference letters. There are 7 pages in that document, marking it as Exhibit 3. And then as Exhibit 4, the memorandum in support of petition, and that's marked as Exhibit 4. Any objection to the admission of these exhibits, Mr. Steinheimer?
No objection.
They've been so admitted. You can proceed.
Thank you for your patience. As I was sitting in the back, I listened to the questions that were asked of other petitioners, and as you read the memorandum, the reference to petitioner as Dr. Ali Akbar is my language, not his language, so he is not trying to pass himself off as a licensed chiropractor at this point. So I just wanted to start with that one. I'll take responsibility to the reference as doctor. He did not sign it that way. And then one other quick correction, and then I'm going to go into the matter. He was actually convicted of 2 counts later in the memorandum. I had said 1 count, but it was 2 counts. And so I'll start my remarks there. Petitioner was licensed in 1996. He practiced for approximately 10 years without any issues, never had any interaction with this board other than his initial licensing until he hired a Mrs. Mora into his office. Mrs. Mora was married to Mr. Mora. Mr. Mora had a scheme going in which imaginary accidents were reported and bills were sent in. Petitioner did not know that. The Moras came into his life, and that started his descent. At some point, he found out what was happening. He threatened to alert law enforcement authorities, and he was threatened with physical violence. He sent the Moras on their way. Investigators became aware of the Moras, especially Mr. Mora, and they circled back to petitioner. And through putting pressure on petitioner, they were able to obtain a fraudulent claim. Now, I say this not to try to relitigate what happened back in 2006, 2007, but the key here is, yes, he was charged, he was convicted, but he was sentenced to a term of probation. And under the terms of his probation, he did 45 days. Mr. Mora was sentenced to 8 years in the state prison. The district attorney's office saw a huge difference in what petitioner was doing and what Mr. Mora was doing. And I think that's highly significant as we sit here today, more than 10 years later. Petitioner went on probation with his felony conviction. He was able to obtain some short-term work through his brother, who was a medical doctor in Buffalo, who was able to help him obtain a non-medical position, an office-style position. However, that came to a quick close when his parents, especially his mother, was diagnosed with cancer. He returned to California to care for his mother. Financial problems mounted, however. He made sure that he completed the terms of his probation. One of the terms was that he not contest any action from this board. And he didn't. As you note in the packet, it was a default. This is his first appearance in front of this board. He accepted what came from this board, which was a 10-year revocation. In looking at this board's actions, that is a very stringent penalty. Typically in California, the default revocation is 1 year. Now I understand that there were reasons why this board may have gone with the longer one. I wasn't present. I don't know the entire reasoning as to why they arrived at 10. Maybe that is standard in this type of thing, or maybe it was standard then. But I heard the court, or this board, ask, what's happened in terms of rehabilitation to the earlier petitioners? And that's what I want to concentrate on here, other than to point out that there were mitigating circumstances, especially compared with the person who was really the architect and so on. Usually there's not that disparity in a sentence. I know that because I was a prosecutor. However, he's on probation, very difficult to find work, financial problems, and yet he made restitution in the tens of thousands of dollars to the insurance companies in terms of the bills. He successfully completed his term of probation, and he's been off since the matter was reduced to a misdemeanor and then ultimately dismissed. Getting that off his record was a huge step forward for this man. Petitioner was then able to gain employment beyond what someone can do with a felony conviction. He started working in the food service industry, first as a kitchen manager for a chain, Cheesecake Factory. Then he moved up to being an assistant general manager at Buffalo Wild Wings, and now he's food and beverage manager, if I understand it correctly, at a hotel in Palo Alto. His father has been diagnosed with cancer, as his mother survived. He lives in Patterson and commutes to Palo Alto and cares for his elderly parents and his father as a cancer patient. Due to the long commute and the caring for the parents at home, he has not been able to do volunteer work. I know that that's one of the questions that is asked. In terms of other rehabilitation, he has tried to stay current through courses in chiropractic practice, although obviously he doesn't practice as a chiropractor. He has completed continuing ed courses. Now, on the restitution, he gave money to the courts. At the time, he didn't realize that that was also paying his debt to this board, and he is ready to make that payment. That was an oversight on his part in terms of paying the costs of his default back in 2007 when his license was suspended. So that is our opening.
Thank you. Do you have any witnesses?
I have petitioner.
When you're ready.
Please state your name.
Reza Ali Akbar. Reza Ali Akbar.
I'll try to use my louder voice. I don't know if that will suffice. I'm looking over my shoulder. Okay. Mr. Ali Akbar, when were you licensed to practice chiropractic medicine?
1996.
And can you describe your practice as it existed between 1996 and 2006?
It was 80% workers' comp, 20% everything else.
And where were you practicing?
I had 3 different practices in Burlingame, San Pablo, I think one was Mountain View.
When you say you had 3 practices, do you mean you owned 3 practices, or you practiced in 3 locations where you rented and had 3 offices?
I rented and had 3 offices.
And you supplied the equipment in each office?
I supplied all the equipment.
And the reason you had 3 offices?
I was getting patients from too many counties, and so it was decided to open one up in the East Bay, Burlingame, and Mountain View, because those were all the places I was generating patients. And Burlingame was my main practice because it was all mostly 90% workers' comp. I was getting a lot of patients from the airport.
Now, at some point, did you hire a Mrs. Mora, M-O-R-A?
Yes, I did.
Do you remember approximately when you hired her?
I think the year may have been 2001. No. Yeah, 2001. No, I think it was 2003. 2003.
And what was her position that she was hired for?
Billing,
She was doing billing.
correct.
So did she have access to your billing records, your billing software, or however you created your bills?
She had access to everything.
At some point, did you meet her husband?
Yes, I did.
And so, did he come to work for you?
No,
He did not.
no, he just said he could refer patients.
And at some point, did you discover something was amiss with your billing system?
It was in 2005, I think, 2005.
What did you notice?
I had a patient I was treating, and this patient, I was coaching counseling this patient because he wanted to go back to school. I had a patient that I was coaching and counseling. He wanted to go back to school. So I said, he wanted to go in the medical field, and he said, well, he wanted to go to study x-rays. I said, well, it's called radiology, and, it's a great field. It's just the beginning stages. There's a lot you can do with that. I offered to pay for some of his schooling, and he was one of the patients that was generated through Mora. I didn't know that he was never involved in an accident. One day he gets off the table. He's just consumed with guilt because I was offering to pay for his education, and he says, Dr. Rez, I have to tell you something. I go, okay, what's going on? He says, I was never in that car. I said, what? Well, you got into another accident? He said, no. I got in an accident, but I was never in that car. I go, okay, what accident? I'm treating you for one accident. You had another accident. No, the accident you're treating me for, I was never in that car. And then you get that Home Alone look, and I just went white. I said, what do you mean? So he explained that he was just standing around with his friends who were making these car accidents, and he says, and the guy just points to me and says, if you say you were in that car, I'll give you $500. And that's how he ended up coming in my practice, posing as a patient, saying he was in a car when he was never in a car. And that's when I can go through the feelings and explanations, but you can just imagine it for yourself if someone says that to you. And I threatened to call the police. And Mr. Mora came to me and said, listen, I owe a lot of people a lot of money, so either you play, or I'm sending people here to, you're going to get your ass whooped, and he's going through all this stuff. Now, when you've never been in that situation, you think you can handle any situation, but when you get into that situation, you have two choices. You're either ruled by fear, or you can go at the guy like a cannonball. And unfortunately, I was consumed with fear, because I'd never been in a situation where you have all these fake files, because, everything went into my head like, oh my God, how many cases are there? And like he so eloquently stated, 100 cases. I was like, so I decided to play along. I said, okay, but you got to stop giving me fake files. You've obviously made a lot of connections. You need to start generating better patients. But he was like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I got good cases. But then after 3 months, I was like, I found that this guy's still clowning around. And I was signing all these fraudulent files, not fraudulent files, but all these bills that were made. And after 3-4 months, I said, you know what, that's it. You've been lying to me. You're still bringing in bad cases, because I was hearing all these rumors. And I said, you can do whatever you want. I have no problem. You do whatever you want, and I'll do whatever I need to do to protect myself. I kicked him out of the office. He left, his wife left. They took all their files, and
When you say they took all their files, meaning files from your office?
correct. They took everything. I said, take whatever's yours and just get out of my office. So they took everything. And I closed that office down. That was one of my better offices. I had to close it down because it was just, I don't know what was going on in that office. And on one night when I went there to pick up my equipment, I had no idea it was under surveillance by the police. So one of the investigators I was posing as a patient comes in and says, hey, where's my file? And I told him, I don't have a file for you. I don't know what you're talking about. He says, no. Mr. Morris said he has a file. I go, well, do you see his name on the door? Is he anywhere in this office? I'm not giving you a file. I don't have your file. I'm not making anything for you. Now, you got to understand a little more, I got a little more scared. I was like, I hope this guy just doesn't cause any problems.
Can I ask you a question? Had you ever seen that person before? Had he come with a group?
He came one time. Oh, yeah, he came twice. I seen him twice. He came one time causing a big fuss because he wanted to get an examination, and he didn't have time to stay, so I did an exam on him. I never saw him after that day. And then he came another time with 5 people, and they were all investigators. I didn't treat any of them.
Did you know they were investigators at that time?
And one
No.
moment before you answer, I just want to remind petitioner that this board is concerned with rehabilitation, not relitigating the circumstances surrounding the revocation. You may proceed.
But I just had this one investigator. What got me in trouble is one investigator kept coming back. 9 months. For 9 months he came back, and that's what got me into trouble, because I gave in to fear, and I made him the file that he wanted. And
So, you ended up getting charged, is that right?
I did,
And you entered a plea of no contest.
correct.
Part of your plea arrangement was that you would not contest action by this board.
Correct.
Did you contest action by this board?
Nope. No.
You were placed on probation?
Informal probation.
Did you make restitution?
I paid back between, I think I paid $35,000 to $40,000.
And did you pay restitution for cases in which you had not actually signed off on?
Yes,
Is that because it was a joint and several liability matter between you and the Moras on the matter?
correct.
So you also ended up making restitution for things that you had not actually touched?
Correct.
Did your mother become ill while you were on probation?
She had basal cell carcinoma on her face. Basal cell carcinoma?
Did you help nurse her through that?
I did. She received what's called a Mohs surgery, where they take a piece of tissue from your scalp that's still attached to your scalp, and they bring it down and attach it to the area that they cut open. And they transplant another tissue in there, but they need a living tissue to feed that. And they cut her open under her eyelid or under her ear, lifted her face, took out all the cancer, put her back together, and then this tissue had to remain on there for, I don't know, it was probably 30 days, 40 days. It was dependent on the healing time, how well she was healing.
At the same time, were you observing the conditions of your probation?
Correct.
Did you successfully complete your probation?
Yes, I did.
Did you have trouble finding gainful employment while you had a felony conviction on your record?
It was almost impossible to get employment.
Did things open up for you after the felony was taken off your record?
Yes.
What type of employment did you find?
I became the kitchen manager at the Cheesecake Factory, running a $15 million restaurant, 1-5. And after that, I moved up to the assistant general manager of Buffalo Wild Wings.
All right, let's go back to the Cheesecake. Did you have any involvement with the financial operation of the restaurant there?
I did in regards to purchasing and cost containment. Cost containment.
And how about at Buffalo Wild Wings as assistant general manager? Did you have any involvement in the financial operation?
Same procedure. You had to be responsible for cost containment and purchasing.
And what is your present occupation?
Food and beverage supervisor over at the Westin Hotel and Sheraton Hotel,
In what city?
Palo Alto.
Again, do you have any involvement in the financial operation?
Cost containment.
Do you do anything in terms, so you, with cost containment, you're involved in budgeting,
Correct.
and then you send it to accounting?
My other supervisor does.
Have you had any offenses since the insurance fraud matter?
No,
Any convictions?
nothing.
Had you had complaints regarding your chiropractic practice before this matter?
No.
Have you taken any courses?
I took one in 2015 from the ICAC.
And what was that about? What was the subject matter?
It was ethics, radiology, practice, and law.
Ethics. And if your license is reinstated, do you know what your plans are?
Well, it would be a slow procedure coming back. I mean, I'm a lifetime member of the ICAC, so I can always go back and get coaching counseling in regards to running a practice. Oh. I can always go back. I can take as many seminars per year to get coaching and counseling from the seminars at the ICAC. So I would start by going back and updating all the laws. I know a lot of the members really well. I've had personal conversations with them. Therefore, getting up to speed would be much more rapid than on an ordinary basis.
Now, why should this board think there would not be a reoccurrence of insurance fraud for you?
The fact that 80% of my practice was workers' comp. They never looked at one page, one sentence, one check box. Nothing in any of my offices was ever looked at in regards to anything being fraudulent other than the personal injury.
What have you learned from your experience?
I just can't trust people. Trust is tough, and I was just a little too gullible. So, well, it's gonna be pretty hard to get through this to try to con me now. I mean, it's been 10 years, and you kind of get a 360 vision. You look at people differently. You listen to their language a little different. You listen to the way they formulate their sentences, the way they talk to you, their mannerisms. You get to read people really well.
Okay, you're talking about trusting other people, but what about inside of you? What have you found inside of yourself?
Well, to never give in to fear. I mean, my biggest mistake was I should have called the police. I mean, that was real dumb. But I gave in to fear, and that became my ruler. But there is no way that I learned that lesson.
Is it fair to say that, well, you said you learned that lesson, which is not give in to fear and don't go into that downward spiral?
Absolutely.
Because it starts compounding?
At an exponential rate.
No, I don't believe that you, at this point, have reimbursed the board for the default order.
I have not.
I'm sorry. Have you reimbursed the board for the default order?
I have not.
Now, we heard earlier a member of the board ask a petitioner if the person had any objection to reimbursing the board, even if reinstatement is not made. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't owe anybody or any entity any money. I've paid all my funds I've generated all the funds that I was supposed to pay. And in regards to the restitution, the fact that the mastermind did 8 years and another chiropractor got deported, they put those restitutions on my calendar, and I ended up paying their restitution, which is my restitution was quite large, but I paid everything back. I don't owe the state any taxes. All my taxes are up to date, and I've never skipped out on a bill. All my bills are paid. And that's what I told the judge that's why she reduced it to a misdemeanor, because I didn't have all the funds. I owed $30,000 of whatever was left. I don't know how much. And I went in with a $25,000 check, and I informed her that if she can accept this check and reduce it to a misdemeanor, I can get a job and pay the rest back. So she agreed. She took the check, reduced it to a misdemeanor, and I paid all the other funds that I owed. And I was told by the state by the district attorney, it was District Attorney David Cook in Alameda County. He said those funds will get dispersed to whoever I owed money to. I didn't know I had a bill at the chiropractic board. And if I did, I assumed that when he said they get dispersed to all the people I owed money to, it included the board. But that was not the case. I was told that by Nakia over the phone that I still owe the money. When she asked me, are you going to pay? I said, yeah, I was going to pay before my arrival, but I had to pay some other bills, so I have no objections to paying that bill. That's not an issue.
I don't have further questions at this time. Well, actually, I'll take that back. Often attorneys say that and then realize there's a couple more. You have supplied the board with a letter from a psychotherapist. Can you explain how that came about?
Well, my main concern was rehabilitation. I mean, how am I going to prove to the board that? Oh, sorry. My main concern was rehabilitation. I didn't know how to prove to the board that I'm not the same person. So I needed somebody to look outside the box because the aspects of our perceptual reality is that we can't see ourselves. And I went to a therapist to say, hey, do I still need things to work on? Is there anything that am I holding back? Am I not holding back? What is going on? So I sat and I talked to her. It was a 4-hour, 5-hour conversation. And she seemed to think from all the years of pain, depression, taking care of my mother, not taking care of my father, getting back into the community, paying all my bills, and keeping on top of everything. she seemed to think everything was okay.
You've also supplied the board with a packet of letters. Can you tell us who those letters came from?
One is from an attorney friend, one is from an acupuncturist, one is from a teacher, one is from another chiropractor, and one is from a kitchen manager that I worked with at the Cheesecake Factory.
These are all people you know personally?
Correct.
This time, I don't have any more questions.
Now's the time for questions from the board.
No questions.
I have one question. In your testimony, when you were talking about the history of what happened to you, you said you got in trouble because of one investigator recreating a file. That you recreated a file for the person who kept demanding his records.
Correct.
That one investigator, it's your belief that that's what caused your revocation?
Oh, no. No. What caused my revocation, because I just wasn't, I should have gone to the police, is what I should have done. What caused my revocation is because I concurred with this individual, thinking I should have called his bluff. I said, I should have gone to the police, but I didn't. So I gave him the fear, and there was a bunch of false claims that I filed. I don't know how many that I signed. But after 4 months of that, I was like, there comes a time with any relationship when you're being abused, you just have to stand up for yourself. So I realized the mistakes I made, and I said, then I called his bluff. That's what got me into trouble, that I signed those files, that I allowed myself to manipulate it, that I was just not smart enough to, I don't know how to say it, but it's like, I should have put up my fist and said, let's go. What do you, but instead, I caved, and I became somebody different, which was regretful, and that's how I signed those bills.
And just to follow up to that, if your license is reinstated, I mean, there was this huge illegal scheme that was happening that you were unaware of. How is that going to, how would you prevent that in the future? I mean, if this went on for so long, how can the board have reassurances that you won't be as unaware in the future of illegal activities going on in your practice?
That's a great question. One, it's been 10 years to think about every single detail of that clinic. Two, let's look at the cost. Let's look at what it cost me. My name, reputation, 10 years of work. My wife walked out. I haven't seen my kids in 10 years. Financial problems. 2 years I'm sitting in a room doing nothing but playing music because it's the only thing that gave me comfort was playing guitar and composing music. I just couldn't do anything else. I was on food stamps for 2 years. And then luckily I dug myself out of that hole. But I'm extremely more cautious. I didn't audit things in the past. I would audit every single line of any bill, and I would look at the names, I would look at the files, you just got to audit your practice. You can't, all chiropractors love to walk in and say, oh, hey, I just get to sign, she did all my work. I just can't fly. You got to audit your files, you got to audit every line, every bill that comes in, every time they send a report in, you got to just look at your files. I didn't do that. I wasn't auditing. I was just, oh, hey, great. So, and then by the time I found out, and then I got, I had enough. I said, no.
No more questions.
Hi. Just to be clear, the only classes that you've taken or continuing education for chiropractic was the ICAC in 2015. That's the only.
Correct.
Have you taken anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions from you, Mr. Steinheimer?
Just briefly, sir, have you, since your license was revoked, have you provided any chiropractic services to anyone?
No.
And then with respect to the type of practice that you would intend to have if you are reinstated, can you describe what type of work you intend to do?
Well, it's a step-by-step process. It would, like I said, initially would be a lot of coaching and counseling. I'd have to go back to seminars. I'd like to go back to seminars. Those are all the positive. Get up to date. I would slowly reengage. I'm not in a hurry. I can always, I got a good name in the entire Bay Area. I can go to any restaurant and get a job. I can get a management job in any restaurant. So I can do part-time restaurant, part-time, get myself back into chiropractic. And I have, one of the letters you have is from a friend of mine, very supportive. A lot of coaching and counseling from him. I can always go to him for anything that I need.
Which letter is that?
Dr. Jam Florius. JAMFLODIUS.
And I'd like to ask you actually a little bit about a couple of the letters, character references. One of the first one is from Nicole Capodogli.
Yes.
In her letter, she talks about knowing you for quite a while. She doesn't reference anything about what you were actually accused and convicted of. Does Ms. Capodogli know what you were about your conviction?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And knows about the revocation of your license?
Yes.
Okay. And then the same question with respect to the letter from Chef Mirza. Again, he doesn't reference anything with respect to your past discipline or criminal background, and I was wondering, is he aware of it when he wrote this letter of recommendation for you?
He is aware of it. He is also, he moved from the Bay Area, and he is running a restaurant in Chicago, and he just called me the other day wishing me luck coming to the board.
Okay. And then finally, the same question for the letter from Alex Lowe. Also doesn't reference anything about your past criminal history or the revocation from the board. Is Mr. Lau aware of what you have done in the past and what you were being convicted of?
Alex Lau, acupuncturist Alex Lau is a great man. He does know. He, when I got arrested and I was taken to jail, he went to my house and knocked on my door. And my wife opened the door, my ex-wife opened the door crying, and he handed her $4,000 right off the bat when I got arrested. He said, keep this, pay your bills until he gets out. He's an incredible man.
Okay.
He's an incredible man.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Mr. Kinsuk, for clarification, I indicated that there were 7 documents in Exhibit 3. That's the character reference letters. I see that I may have had duplicates, so I have 5 letters. I want to just confirm that I have the right letters. I have one from Lau, Alex Lau, L-A-U, one from Dr. Flodius, F-L-O-D-I-U-S, one from Ray Hassan, R-E-Y-H-A-S-S-A-N, one from Executive Chef Mirza, M-I-R-Z-A, and the last one from Nicole Capodogli, C-A-P-O-D-A-G-L-I.
That is correct, 5 letters.
Great. Thank you.
We discussed it yesterday.
All right, closing remarks, starting with you, Mr. Kinsuk.
Yes. And to begin with, I'd like to start with the idea, of course, he would make restitution to this board, pay the costs. And secondly, I'd like to bring up the idea that he would go slowly and would take whatever courses and updates, refreshers, and so on, to get himself ready to actually practice. He's not going to go out and start practicing the next day and taking patients and saying, oh, here I go, now I'm a chiropractor again. He's not ready to do that. There was never a problem with his actual practice of the craft. The problem was elsewhere. And so now I want to go to the board member's question regarding that. And the shorter answer is no, the problems did not stem simply from interacting with the investigator who came later. The problems stemmed from letting the Moras become involved in the office, and then, when he realized what the Moras were up to, not going to the authorities, and as he said, giving into fear, which then started a downward spiral, and he got in deeper and deeper and deeper, rather than stopping it as soon as he found out about it. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. So now we sit here, and it's difficult to impress upon people that he's in a different situation now than he was back in 2006. But the point that he made in terms of what he went through and the fact that this was unique in his life, and he is determined not to let it happen again, I think is the answer. There are support systems out there. He can get coaching. In the brief that I wrote, he's willing to run a completely transparent billing operation and practice and make everything available to this board's investigators, or anyone else that wants to look at it. He's also willing to take advice as to red flags that are out there. He wants no part of this again. He wants to practice his craft, just as all of you, and go back to where he was. 10 years is a long time. He paid his price. We started out with the idea that there were mitigating circumstances, and there were, just looking at the disparity in the sentences. 8 years, 45 days. That is a huge difference. And that actually speaks to what his actual involvement is. I understand that this board has a different standard than the district attorney, but still, he has paid his price. He is skilled and would be a credit to the profession. So we respectfully urge you to reinstate him with whatever conditions the board deems appropriate. He has no desire to run afoul of this board in any way. So that's it.
Mr. Steinheimer, any closing remarks?
Only this, Your Honor. Because the idea of costs have been discussed, I just want to make a note for the record that the default decision established the amount of $4,101.50 as the investigation and enforcement costs associated with that accusation. Otherwise, I submit the matter.
Thank you. Is the matter submitted?
Anything else you want to
Yes.
Submitted, Mr. Steinheimer?
Yes.
All right. That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record is closed. The case is submitted. We're off the record. We'll proceed with the next petition by Kent Pollock. Please step forward. Why don't we take a 5-minute break and go off the record? Thank you. Record. It's February 15th, 2019, and this is in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of revoked license of Kenneth Pollock. All board members are now present in the room. Starting with you, Mr. Steinheimer.
Yes. Your Honor?
One moment. You can state your appearance for the record.
Your Honor, my name is James Cosnett, and I'd like to begin by correcting the record. The gentleman's name is Kent, K-E-N-T, not Kenneth. And it's an unfortunate typo, which then got repeated a few times. So on some of your documents, you will see Kent, and on others, you will see Kenneth. So I'd like it to be known that his name is Kent.
Thank you for the clarification. And if you want to go ahead and state your appearance for the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is James Cosnet. I'd like to greet and thank the members of the board and Your Honor for the opportunity to present Mr. Pollock. Very proud to represent him. He's an outstanding individual. You want me to make a few comments or just state my
Not yet.
appearance? Not yet.
You're early.
All right.
Right. Mr. Steinheimer is here representing the department, the Attorney General's office. Mr. Steinheimer?
Yes, Andrew Steinheimer, Deputy Attorney General, on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522. You ready for me to proceed?
I am, thank you.
First, the petition for reinstatement packet has been provided to the board members as well as to Your Honor, and I would like to have that petition packet marked as Exhibit A. Marking it as Exhibit A because it contains divisions that have been already labeled Exhibits 1, 2, et cetera. And so at this time, I'd like to have the petition packet admitted into evidence.
No, Your Honor.
Hearing no objection, it's been admitted.
Thank you. The petition packet generally consists of the petition for reinstatement of revoked license dated September 3rd, 2017, as well as petitioner's supporting documentation. This consists of, among other things, a statement of explanation, a July 20th, 2004 letter from the law offices of Paul Tyler, a probation report, a minute order from the Superior Court, evidence that petitioner's conviction was reduced to a misdemeanor and dismissed, evidence of continuing education completed, numerous letters of support, and petitioner's resume. Exhibit A also includes a copy of the August 10th, 2007 decision and order in case number 2006-565, which was effective September 10th, 2007, as well as the accusation from case number 2006-565. This time, petitioners also brought some additional documents that have been now provided to Your Honor as well as the board. And I'd like that to be marked as Exhibit B, and it consists of 9 letters and identified as additional letters of recommendation.
Assuming there's no objection to Exhibit B coming in.
No, Your Honor.
It's been so admitted.
Thank you. With respect to a brief background of the license history, petitioner's license number is DC 11503. The license was first issued to petitioner on January 1st, 1976. On November 27th, 2006, the board filed an accusation against petitioner in case number 2006-565. The accusation alleged that petitioner was subject to discipline based on his unprofessional conduct, including his November 14, 2006 conviction for insurance fraud and the underlying fraudulent conduct giving rise to the conviction. Petitioner committed insurance fraud in his practice as a chiropractor and was convicted of 3 felony counts and ordered to pay $500,000 in restitution. In May 2007, petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement in which his license was revoked and he was not allowed to apply for reinstatement for a period of 10 years, and he agreed to pay the board its cost of investigation and prosecution in the amount of $11,200, which is due prior to the issuance of a reinstated license. The board adopted the stipulation and issued the decision in order on August 10, 2007, with the effective date of September 10, 2007. And petitioner is now requesting that the board reinstate his chiropractic license. As it is petitioner's burden to demonstrate that he is rehabilitated and safe to practice and that his license should be reinstated, we turn it over to Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Pollock, if you'll stand and raise your right hand. If you'll stand. Stand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Mr. Cosnet, do you have an opening?
Very briefly, Your Honor, I concur with what counsel stated. The packet is replete with the history of what occurred, and the letters of recommendation are extremely strong. And I've added more recent letters, which were admitted as Exhibit B, and I know that the board will consider them in due time. I don't wish to recount the facts that are in front of you or really interfere with his direct statements to you so that you could judge his credibility and his rehabilitation, except to say that I am very proud to represent him. He is a good man, and it's evidenced by everything he's done, as he will tell you. He's never been in trouble before or since the action that caused him to lose his license. And I believe it would be an extraordinary asset, that the evidence will show that he would be an extraordinary asset to the community, and were he permitted to resume that practice. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kent Pollack.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for allowing me to come before you and present myself. This has been a long time coming, and I've thought considerably about my actions and spent a great deal of time in my rehabilitation and trying to find some way to give back to the community that I injured. Just as a matter of background, I was raised in a small mining town in northern Idaho called Kellogg, which is right next door to Coeur d'Alene, if you know anything about it. My father was a miner. I graduated from high school there, and I worked in the mines myself underground to put myself through university, and I graduated in 1968 with my pre-medical degree from Brigham Young University. I was married at the time and had a 6-month-old child, and was admitted to the University of Guadalajara, Mexico, to pursue a medical degree. And this was in the middle of the Vietnam War, and I was drafted. Since I was going to school outside the United States, I did not have protection. And so I came back to the United States and served a year in Vietnam, actually a total of 3 years and a year in combat. And upon coming back from the service, I did not have any means of employment, so I began to work in it's called a market basket warehouse, is what it was called. Those of you who are a little older might know of the marketing chain. And through a course of events, I injured my back, and a chiropractor was the doctor who actually saved me from orthopedic surgery, and I was so impressed with the procedures and techniques that I decided to pursue that degree rather than a medical degree. I graduated I worked full-time in the process of getting my degree from the Cleveland Chiropractic College in LA, and we had 2 more children in the process of that 3-year program of my education. I worked the midnight, the graveyard shift in the warehouse, in the food warehouse, and then went to school in the morning and afternoons at the Cleveland Chiropractic College. I graduated with the highest of honors in January of 1976 and took the state licensing board in March at the old LACC campus in Glendale, and was granted my license in in June, I believe, early June of 1976. At that point, I practiced with a retiring osteopath in Huntington Park, California, and I practiced there for 4 years while I lived in Montebello, California, and then sold that practice and moved to the present time in Camarillo, California, which is in Ventura County. And I practiced there from 1980 until July of 2006. Presently, and during that period of time, we had 2 more children, and I had 5 children. In the process of the move, I was divorced, and I married a young lady who had 3 children. So I have raised in my home and otherwise 8 children. Currently, we have 27 grandchildren, and we recently relocated to the state of Utah, where we are within visiting distance of 3 of the 5 daughters. The events that we're here today to talk about began in 1998 when the codes were changed for workers' compensation, for actually reimbursement. And I had hired a young lady in the early 90s who was just out of high school, and she did all of my billing. We had converted over to computerized billing in the 91 or 92. And in the process of that, her life moved on. She married and moved ultimately out of state. And unfortunately, rather than keep the billing in-house or to farm it out to one of the billing agencies that are used now, I allowed her to do the billing, and that's when these events occurred. I was aware of them, and nevertheless, because of the misambiguity of the billing code changes, I was not entirely aware of all of the many discrepancies that were made, and I fully accepted the full responsibilities when it came to my light that they were being made.
Convicted here in jail.
In the process of the investigation, the result of the investigation resulted in my pleading guilty to the charges, and I was sentenced to a year in the Ventura County Jail, which I served, and paid a fine, a restitution of $500,000 to the county of Ventura. And then the subsequent loss of my license, the revocation. And since that time, after when I went to jail and then got out, with all this time to think and consider where I wanted to go with my life, my church, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they are very active in family research and genealogical research. And I have always had an interest in that, and so I decided to see if I couldn't do something to help others. And so I volunteered myself at the local church, not only to teach, but to work in the evenings. They had a family history library there to help those who were interested in doing their family history research. And I did that as a way of being involved in the community and somehow paying back what I thought that I had gained some skill at. That gradually increased as not only my abilities to increase to understand family history research, but I had the opportunity then to serve in the Los Angeles Mormon Temple. And my wife and I served there for 2 years doing this type of work, teaching other people as well as doing other ordinances that were associated with the work. In 2012, I was on probation at the time for 5 years, and I completed that and was released. I believe I was released in 2011, and we were then asked to go back to a little town in western Illinois called Nauvoo, Illinois. And that is a historic point of origin for the Mormon Church. That's where the Mormon pioneers left to come west to Salt Lake and the Salt Lake Valley. And we served there for a year doing this same type of family history training to visitors that would come there, We became involved in the local community. My wife wrote a book, actually, about one of the physicians there in 1830, and I helped her doing that in research. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And in the process of that, I became acquainted with the county clerk in Hancock County, it was called. And through this friendship, I was able to find the original deed to the Mormon temple in Nauvoo, which had never been discovered. And it was, to me, it was a really big thing. And we put this in the book that my wife wrote, and it was a big deal to me. It might not have been to the general community, but I also gave it to the headquarters of the LDS Church. So we finished that in December of 2012 and came home with the intent of selling our home and coming up to Utah, where our family primarily is centered. And the house would not sell. In that meantime, the next 6 months, we were invited to come back to the Los Angeles area, the Los Angeles Temple, and continue our training in family history and teaching others about their genealogical research, finding their family roots, and all the things that entailed. And we completed that mission in 2015. I think it was in January or February we completed that. And we decided then again to try and sell our house, which we did sell the house in August of that year, 2015. And we relocated to Utah to be near our family. And we have been there ever since. Since we have been back and not having any means of employment that would be substantial other than living off of our limited savings, my wife and I both took up employment. And I have worked in a variety of jobs. Currently, I'm teaching at a preparatory academy, a private school. I'm teaching sciences to about 125 high school students. And we're currently, this semester, we're teaching earth science regarding volcanoes and changes in landforms and all the various things that has found a great deal of interest in me. But those, to me, are ways of giving back and helping others with my education and experience to have perhaps a better shot at life than they would otherwise have done. I have not been involved in chiropractic as far as clinically or practicing in any form. I have attended several current continuing education classes in the last, in 2017, I did 36 hours in preparation for, I thought I was going to have a hearing before the board, and it was not possible to get to the board until today. But those 36 hours are the most current CE classes that I've taken. They were on aging and low-level laser therapy, things that I have not been accustomed to, so I wanted to become familiarized with, as well as ethics, nutrition, and any changes in the California law. And during all this time, I have kept myself current with many of the changes in chiropractic through the Dynamic Chiropractor magazine, and now it's online. And so I've read that consistently and have kept myself as current as I felt was possible. During this last year, with this taking on this job of teaching now in this preparatory academy, I have not had as much time to devote as I would normally have. And I still believe that I want to maintain my credibility and my active participation in the chiropractic field by attending seminars. Whether my license is reinstated or not, I think it's important for me as a man and as in my history that I should attend these classes. And since I have been out of the profession, they are now being taught online. And that's a great service to me, that I do not have to return to California every time I want to take a class.
Opportunity to return to practice. Opportunity to then return to the manual of practice.
And what my greatest desire is to return to my beloved profession as chiropractic, as a chiropractor, and be able to bless the lives of those who are in need. I have a lot of skills. I think I have a lot of interpersonal skills as well in dealing with the public. I practiced for 30 years prior to the advent of these activities, and I have always had the highest of relationships with my patients, as well as or other in the medical community. I've had excellent relationships with neurologists and orthopedic surgeons that we have cooperated with on many, many cases. But that is my great desire today, is to come before you and submit myself to your counsel and to your judgment, and what might be a better way to proceed in the restitution and the reinstatement of my license.
Mr. Cosnet, any further witnesses?
No, Mr. Pollock's my only witness, and of course, you've got the letters.
If you'll pull that close to you, the microphone a little closer to you.
I said that, no, Mr. Pollock's my only witness, and of course, you have the letters from various people that are very heartfelt and insightful.
Thank you. Now's the time for questions from the board members.
No questions.
I do not have any questions.
No questions.
I have a couple of questions. In your CE classes that you took, did you take any billing or documentation classes?
Yes, in the one that was in Torrance, it was a 4-hour class in billing. In fact, that's the reason I took that, so that I could understand any of the changes that occurred in the previous 10 years, and it was very, very beneficial to me.
Did they, go ahead, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
And I, from the very beginning of all of this, have asserted that it was my fault, it was my mistake in not allowing my billing to remain within the area that I could immediately supervise, staying in the office. Now, most of the billing is, I have a son who's a chiropractor, actually, and all of it is done through clearinghouses. So if there's any mistakes in billings or in codes or whatever, they immediately are audited and scrutinized before they're submitted for payment. And that's what I intend to do, absolutely,
Is use a clearinghouse?
yes.
In the billing CE that you took, was any of it specific to workers' comp?
It covered all of the areas of PI, workers' comp, Medicare. In fact, there was even a brief portion on cash
Okay.
patients.
And then you also mentioned online CE being available now.
Yes,
Are you familiar with how many hours you need for CE credit for California?
I believe it's 24
Okay,
hours now, is it not?
It is. And how many can you take online?
I think you can only take 12
Okay.
of those.
So-
I think you have to take 12 in person.
Okay. All right, no further questions.
If your license is reinstated, what would be your plan?
Well, what my plan is to bring myself up to speed on any type of CE programs that are continuing education programs that I felt or that the board feels are beneficial to me. And that's one of the reasons I'm here today, is to receive your counsel and direction as to which is the proper way to re-enter the field of chiropractic. Given my age and my interest, I have a contract with this preparatory academy that I've got to complete through the end of this year. So I probably would just do locum tenens type of work, or I have a son-in-law in Oregon who is a chiropractor that he has invited me to come and assist in just doing exams or whatever is necessary. I would not clinically become involved in his practice. And then I have my son in Encinitas that practices, that I would like to go and help him from time to time and give him some relief.
You answered my question. Thank you very much.
Mr. Steinheimer, any questions?
Just a couple of brief ones. Sir, since your license has been revoked, have you performed any chiropractic or provided any chiropractic services to anyone?
No, I have not.
And other than the conviction that was the basis for the revocation, have you been convicted of any crimes?
Never.
One moment.
Sorry.
Mr. Polak, if you'll pull it closer to you to answer the questions.
No, I have not.
And then, as part of your rehabilitation, have you gained any insight into what prompted you to commit the offenses in the first place? Can you discuss that at all?
Well, obviously, greed was a part of it, ignorance on my part, trusted other people, but it was my fault for not being a good businessman and not making adequate oversight over those who I trusted. And it was my fault because my name was on the documents. Every one of those insurance forms that went in bore my signature, and I've now realized that you have to pay extraordinary attention to everything that goes out over your name. And you cannot assign responsibility or give that authority to anyone else.
Okay. You submitted a number of letters of support on behalf from neighbors and friends, et cetera. With respect to the recent letters that you submitted that are part of Exhibit B, my question for you is just, do these people who are attesting to your character, are they aware of your past conviction and the issue that led to your revocation of your license?
No, I do not believe so.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
All right, closing remarks?
I would just like to say that the question was...
If you'll pull it closer, the microphone closer to you, please.
The question from counsel was, has he, in effect, gotten into any trouble with the law since? And the answer was unequivocally no. And also, as I pointed out, Mr. Pollack, is the fact that was, you never had any problems before then either. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think that given the length of time and his service, his charitable works, he's been a little modest, even though I urged him to tell you in more detail. But I think you'll find yourself when you read about him that people have really appreciated his many good works since. And, you know, he just said it very modestly. He's doing a fantastic job as a teacher. And that's an outstanding calling in and of itself. And that's emblematic of his character, his nature. He's a giver. He's got gifts. He's got talent. He's got extraordinary intelligence and a huge heart. And he's got the skill now as a chiropractor that he would like to resume and have the pride and the pleasure of assisting the younger generation who have followed in his footsteps in going into this wonderful field that helped him so much, which led him to it. And I feel that he's taken full responsibility, and there won't be any repetition of the billing issues, and there were never any other issues. So I really feel that He is a wonderfully qualified candidate for reinstatement, and I thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, the only comment I would make is that should the license be reinstated, the amount of cost that was identified in the stipulation and the order that should be paid prior to reinstatement is $11,200 from the discipline. Otherwise, I submit.
Thank you. Is the matter submitted?
Submitted. Thank you.
That concludes the petition hearing in this matter. The record's closed, the case is submitted. We are off the record in this matter. You can pick up a copy of the court reported billing detail information on your right-hand side. The board will be deliberating now in closed session. Please clear the room.